Hello and welcome. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ashan Russell and these are the headlines that we're tracking this week. Congress celebrates victory in Uttarakhand. Harish Rawat all set to return as the Chief Minister after winning the confidence vote. The Supreme Court pulls up centre and state governments on its measures to fight drought, seeks a national plan and a revision of existing drought management manual. No compensation for consumers on call drops. Supreme Court strikes down TRAI order on the issue, calling it arbitrary and unfair. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley tells the Rajya Sabha that Vijay Mallya can be extradited once a charge sheet is filed against him. And as the Brazilian Senate votes on impeachment, President Dilma Rousseff appeals to Supreme Court to stop proceedings, pledged to fight the coup till the end. Our top story this evening, the Supreme Court today announced the Harish Rawat government, Harish Rawat-led Congress party, in fact, has won the floor test in Uttarakhand. The top court also said it found no irregularities in the voting. The Union Cabinet responded to the announcement by recommending that President's rule be revoked.
Congress workers celebrating in Uttarakhand on a day when the Supreme Court puts its stamp of approval on the vote of confidence in the Assembly. The verdict reinstated the Harish Rawat government 6 weeks after the centre unseated him. After 9 disqualified MLAs were barred from voting, Rawat got 33 votes out of the 61 MLAs in the floor test.
हमारे लिए जरूर उत्तराखंड के लिए जरूर ये टाइम बहुत तनाव का रहा, असमंजस का रहा, नाना प्रकार के कई नुकसान उत्तराखंड को झेलने पड़े, मगर मेरा हमारे साथियों का सबका हमने अभी बातचीत की, हमारा मानना है अंत भला सो भला और यहां से हम एक नई शुरुआत कर सकें.
The victory was a shot in the arm for the Congress. Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi lashed out at the BJP on Twitter.
This was a bad attempt which they had made. Finally, they had eat to humble pie, and I think in future the central government would not repeat its mistake in other states.
For the BJP, Rawat's return proved to be a loss of face given the manner in which the centre imposed President's rule. The party, however, put a different spin to the events.
कांग्रेस ने बहुमत को खरीदा है, कांग्रेस को बहुमत वहां मिला नहीं है, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने उत्तराखंड की जनता के बहुमत को खोया है और यहां इन्होंने खरीदा है. तो कांग्रेस पता नहीं किसकी जीत का जश्न कांग्रेस मना रही है.
Soon after the judgment, the Union Cabinet recommended the President's rule be invoked in Uttarakhand.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो वहाँ आदेश था उत्तराखंड में, वो आदेश के हिसाब से वहाँ जो नतीजा निकाला, उसके हिसाब से आज केंद्र मंत्रिमंडल ने राष्ट्रपति शासन वहाँ समाप्त करने के लिए राष्ट्रपति जी को सिफारिश करने के लिए निर्णय लिया है.
Uttarakhand was plunged into political crisis soon after 9 Congress MLAs revolted against the Harish Rawat government. After a contentious vote against Rawat's budget, they joined the BJP that led to the government losing its majority. The centre then imposed President's rule in the state just a day before Rawat was told to take a trust vote. Rawat then challenged the decision, after which the Supreme Court directed the vote of confidence on May 10th and barred 9 disqualified MLAs from taking part in the voting. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Supreme Court today pulled up various state governments for adopting what it called an ostrich-like attitude by denying the reality on the drought situation. At the same time, it told the central government that it should be proactive and not introduce the concept of federalism to delegate responsibility, while maintaining that its only role is to provide financial assistance to states.
The Supreme Court on Wednesday directed the central government to prepare a national plan to deal with the drought in the country. The ruling came on a public interest litigation petition filed by a non-profit organization. The petition sought the court's intervention in the prevailing drought situation in many parts of India.
Though it required the central government to set up a disaster relief force, that has also not been set up for drought. And though it required the preparation of a disaster management plan for drought as well, even that plan has not been made by the central government, and it has directed the central government to do all these things.
The court asked the government to set up a special force under the Disaster Management Act to deal with the crisis, apart from revising its drought management manual. The top court has stern words for states like Bihar, Haryana and Gujarat that had not declared the droughts early enough. It directed central government to fix a time limit to declare the drought scientifically. It's only the fourth time in a century that India has seen 2 straight years of drought. The country is reeling under excruciating summers, with Maharashtra being one of the worst hit states. The centre told the Supreme Court last week that 330 million people in 11 states, or a third of the national population, were affected by drought. Bureau Report, Rajyasabha TV.
So the Supreme Court today struck down the TRAI regulation, making it mandatory for telecom companies to compensate subscribers for call drops. The TRAI had sought that customers be reimbursed ₹1 per dropped call.
Frustrating or not, consumers will not be reimbursed for call drops. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court struck down the TRAI regulation that ordered telecom companies to compensate subscribers for call drops. The top court called the TRAI order arbitrary, unreasonable and non-transparent.
The Supreme Court has rendered a historic judgment today by striking down the regulation in terms of which telecom operators were going to be charged for call drops. Governments and ministers should not be populist when making decisions on behalf of government.
The Supreme Court ruling came on the appeals filed by 21 telecom operators. It challenged a Delhi High Court order that upheld the TRAI's decision to compensate subscribers for call drops from January. The telecom companies told the court that the entire sector was already under huge debt after having to pay a big price for spectrum. Therefore, zero tolerance on call drops should not be imposed on them.
We will examine the judgment, and whatever is required to be done by TRAI or the government, we will look into the matter. While I acknowledge the great work done by mobile operators all over the country, it is their obligation primarily to give a flawless service, to reinforce the gap, to make the investment.
Earlier this year, the Delhi High Court upheld the October 2015 decision of TRAI that made it mandatory for cellular operators to pay consumers ₹1 per call drop experienced on their networks, subject to a cap of ₹3 a day. TRAI insisted on taking action against the telecos to protect the interests of consumers, saying that the service providers were not willing to compensate them. But telecoms argued that the order that penalized them was populist and unfair because connectivity was affected by factors beyond their control. They also argued that they had installed 2 lakh telecom towers in the last 15 months. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley today clarified in the Rajya Sabha that the extradition process has been initiated to bring back Vijay Mallya after filing the charge sheet. Jaitley's remarks come in the wake of a denial by the United Kingdom to deport Mallya back to India. Mallya has been charged with money laundering and a loan default of over 9,400 crore rupees.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley informed the Upper House on Wednesday that the United Kingdom had denied deportation of businessman Vijay Mallya, citing legal reasons. According to British laws, a person cannot be deported if he enters Britain with a valid passport that gets cancelled subsequently. Jaitley said UK had adopted the same stance on earlier occasions as well. The British government has, however, requested mutual legal assistance.
पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स से का काफ़ी पैसा जिस कंपनी और व्यक्ति के प्रति ड्यू है और बैंक्स उससे निकालने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं उस पैसे को, और उसके साथ साथ जहां-जहां कानून का उल्लंघन हुआ है इन्वेस्टिगेटिव एजेंसीज उसकी जांच कर रही हैं.
Jaitley's response came after the JDU's Sharad Yadav raised the issue during Zero Hour. Yadav alleged inaction by the government.
इन्होंने कहा था सरकार ने कि हम उसको वापस लाएंगे, पकड़ के लाएंगे, पक्का लाएंगे, और ब्रिटिश यूके ने साफ साफ मना कर दिया है कि किसी तरह का कोई मामला ही नहीं बनता है और यहाँ से कोई किसी तरह का विजय मल्ल्या को वापस लाने का कोई मामला नहीं बनता है। और बहुत पहले से मैं कह रहा था कि आदमी बहुत ही अजीब तरह का, इसके बारे में क्या शब्द इस्तेमाल करूं, इस आदमी को आपने शान के साथ इतना सामान ले गया यहाँ से, और यहाँ से सारी सरकार सोते रही और ये आदमी यहाँ से शान से चला गया।
Vijay Mallya left the country on 2nd of March, a day before a consortium of 17 banks filed a recovery suit against him for unpaid loans. The Indian government also cancelled his passport. Mallya's resignation from the Rajya Sabha was also accepted last week. This is Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for all the news from the poll-bound states in verdict 2016. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed an election rally in Vedaranyam in Tamil Nadu. In the last phase of election campaigning in the poll-bound states, the Prime Minister also campaigned in Kerala today. Let's listen into what he had to say during these rallies.
ये दृश्य इस बात का गवाह है कि तमिलनाडु की जनता ने अब ये जो दो लोग बारी बारी से सत्ता में आते हैं, कभी इनकी सरकार, कभी उनकी सरकार, कभी इनकी सरकार, कभी उनकी सरकार, ये दो ही दल तमिलनाडु को अपने कब्जे में लेकर के बैठे हैं। तमिलनाडु से मुक्ति चाहता है, ये दृश्य इस बात का साक्षी कहता है। आप देख लीजिए, हिंदुस्तान में जहां जहां पर भारतीय जनता पार्टी को सरकार चलाने का मौका मिला है, वे सभी राज्य एक ही काम पर ध्यान लगाते हैं और वो काम है विकास।
Now, with much of India reeling under intense heat wave conditions, pre-monsoon showers last night surprised many in North India. In fact, the weatherman has predicted another spell of rain and thunder showers in Delhi by the 16th or the 17th of May.
Delhi woke up to a spell of rain and thunderstorms on Wednesday. Light to moderate rain were witnessed over many places in the national capital. The fresh showers brought down temperatures to 25 degrees from a scorching 40 degrees Celsius. Shimla and Himachal Pradesh also received moderate to heavy rainfall, bringing down the temperature from 38 degrees to 23 degrees Celsius. The weather officials have predicted more rains and hailstorm in Himachal Pradesh in the next 4 days.
हिमाचल में शिमला सिटी में भी और पूरे हिमाचल प्रदेश में जो काफ़ी जगह पे बारिश हुई है, जिससे तापमान में भी गिरावट आई है। शिमला में जो बारिश है लगभग 25 मिलीमीटर बारिश रिकॉर्ड की गई, जिसमें तापमान में भी गिरावट आई है। जो तापमान है कल के मुकाबले 5 से 6 डिग्री जो तापमान में गिरावट आई है, और ये जो WD है इसका इफेक्ट अगले 4 दिन रहेगा।
It can rain any time. You got to carry your umbrellas every day, like wherever you are going. So it's kind of a really difficult thing.
Residents in Hyderabad also breathed a sigh of relief as the pre-monsoon showers hit the city. According to the weather department, the rains will continue over Hyderabad for some more days. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more national news and updates now nationwide. BJP President Amit Shah, along with Dalit sadhus and others, took a holy dip at the ongoing Simhastha Mela in Ujjain. Shah arrived from Indore to take part in the month-long and joined the Dalit sadhus and other saints in the holy bath. Shah has also had a social harmony feast with them. Militants hurled a grenade on a stationary vehicle of a senior police officer outside the court complex in Anantnag town of Kashmir around 1 p.m. today. The Sikh personnel security guard of the police officer was injured in the explosion. No militant outfit has claimed responsibility so far. Five people, including 4 tourists and a tourist guide, were swept away after a cloudburst in Shimla district on Tuesday. The tourists who came here for the river rafting were travelling by a Scorpio SUV when the cloudburst struck. 1 out of the 7 tourists from Punjab, 3 were rescued and shifted to a local hospital. Shamvar Rai, the former driver of Indrani Mukherjee and Peter Mukherjee, on Wednesday agreed to be an approver in the Sheena Bora murder case. Rai told a court in Mumbai that he was a participant in the murder and wanted to share facts voluntarily in exchange for being pardoned. Time for us to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
There's a lot of ego tussle between Pinarayi Vijayan and Mr. Chuthanandan.
Yes, frankly, yes, there were. Now, left is united. If there is any disunity, it is with the right, Congress.
Do you see the game of politics in Kerala changing because of the entry of JP?
And here comes one party which says, to be a good human being, you have to be a Hindu. It won't be accepted in Kerala.
Why is there still a perception that the party is very anachronistic, it is not living with the times?
Majority of people in Kerala still do not think like that.
Watch To The Point with former Finance Minister of Kerala, Thomas Isaac, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, some international news, and Donald Trump continues his march in the U.S. presidential race after winning the latest Republican primaries in West Virginia and Nebraska. However, the focus is now more on the Democratic rivals, where Bernie Sanders has dealt another blow to frontrunner Hillary Clinton.
19 wins so far for Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, who thinks they are enough to establish his credentials.
Tonight, it appears that we've won a big victory in West Virginia.
Sanders told a crowded rally in California that most opinion polls indicate he could beat Trump in the presidential poll by a larger margin than Hillary Clinton.
And our message to the Democratic delegates who will be assembling in Philadelphia is, while we may have many disagreements with Secretary Clinton, there is one area we agree, and that is we must defeat Donald Trump.
The political calendar may have favored Sanders, but Clinton still leads delegates and needs just 15% of pledged delegate support to secure the Democratic nomination. She is already campaigning as the presumptive nominee.
I'm running my campaign. I'm not running against him. He's doing a fine job of doing that himself. I'm running my campaign, what I want to do as president, what I stand for, what I've always stood for, and what I believe is going to make a difference to the people of this country.
New opinion polls showed that Clinton hangs on to a double-digit lead over Sanders nationally, but in a matchup against Republican Donald Trump, Sanders polls higher on voter support. On the Republican side, the sole candidate Trump won contests in West Virginia and Nebraska handily. Trump now needs just 130 delegates to officially become the presidential nominee of the party in July.
Now, the difference is that their system has superdelegates. That's too obvious. Whereas the Republican system is much more sophisticated. It's the same rigging, but it's less obvious. So it's a smarter system. But let me tell you, we've now exposed it. But here's the way I look at it. I won, so I don't care anymore, right? We don't care anymore.
Meanwhile, Sanders has pledged to take his campaign all the way to the July convention of the Democrats in Philadelphia and wants a say in shaping the party's platform. But many see an uphill climb even for him. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Brazilian Senate began a session to vote on President Dilma Rousseff's impeachment. Earlier, Rousseff had asked the Supreme Court to block impeachment proceedings against her, saying it was politically motivated. However, if the senators vote for a full trial, Rousseff could be suspended for up to 180 days.
The Brazilian Senate began a crucial session to decide whether President Dilma Rousseff should be put on trial for breaking budget laws. The vote is not expected to be concluded until late on Wednesday.
A minha expectativa é de que tudo ocorra normalmente e que esse momento só servirá ao Brasil, só ajudará no aperfeiçoamento das instituições, se não danificar a democracia.
On Tuesday, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff had appealed to the Supreme Court to stop proceedings in a last-ditch effort to stop her impeachment. Dilma, who branded the impeachment as a coup, said that the country was going through a decisive moment and promised to fight till the end.
É um momento decisivo. É um momento decisivo para a democracia brasileira, esse momento que nós estamos vivendo hoje.
The government has asked the Supreme Court to annul impeachment proceedings, arguing that they were politically motivated and had no legal basis. The government's attorney also pointed out that the acting Speaker of the lower house of Congress controversially withdrew his decision to annul last month's impeachment vote in the chamber of the House.
Conhecimento já feito pelo Supremo Tribunal Federal de que ele agia com desvio de poder, inclusive tendo praticado, como disse, atos a posteriori dele ser réu, mostram indiscutivelmente a nulidade de todo este processo.
Meanwhile, both anti and pro-government protesters caused disruption across all Brazilian states. A wall was constructed outside Congress in anticipation of large protests during the Senate vote.
Mais corrupto de la minha vida. E eu tenho 70 anos. Não há corrupção maior que acá.
O impeachment não ocorra, porque se ocorrer a gente vai tomar as ruas e é assim que a gente consegue fazer com que a democracia aconteça, nas ruas, ocupando os lugares.
The Brazilian president is accused of illegally manipulating finances to hide a growing public deficit ahead of her re-election in 2014. If Senate votes to put Rousseff on trial, she will be suspended for 180 days and replaced by Vice President Michel Temer, who is already making plans for a ministerial shake-up and economic reforms. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Summer international news now and Global Buzz. Pakistan's Maritime Security Agency today arrested 10 Indian fishermen and seized 2 boats for allegedly trespassing into Pakistan's territorial waters. The fishermen were arrested along the maritime border between Sindh and Gujarat. Pakistan police have registered cases under the Foreign and Fisheries Act. Jamaat-e-Islami chief Motiur Rahman Nizami was hanged on Tuesday night for war crimes committed during Bangladesh's 1971 liberation war against Pakistan. The 73-year-old leader was hanged at Dhaka Central Jail at 12 midnight. Rahman had lost his final appeal against the sentence and refused to seek presidential clemency. Five men were arrested in Australia for allegedly intending to cross the ocean in a small fishing boat and join the Islamic State group. Police arrested the men as they were towing the boat through the northern part of Queensland State. Men aged between 21 and 33 planned to travel in a boat through Indonesia to Philippines and then on to Syria. A car bomb at a crowded market in northern Baghdad killed at least 64 people and wounded 87 others. The blast happened at the Shia district of Sadr city during the morning rush hour. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack that targeted the Shia-dominated district of the Sadr city. Protests broke out across France after the government forced through controversial labour reforms. 2,000 French police officers were injured while 120 were arrested during a night of nationwide demonstrations against watering down of workers' rights. The government has faced months of resistance to the bill from students, unions and even members of the ruling party. Time now to take a look at what else has been happening in the world of sports and Sports Beat. The coach carrying the Manchester United players to Tuesday's Premier League game at West Ham United was attacked outside the ground by home fans. The kickoff was delayed by 45 minutes as beer bottles were thrown at the coach and had a window broken. No arrests have been made so far. Aizawl FC was held to a goalless draw by Sporting Club de Goa in the first leg of its semi-final clash in the Federation Cup football tournament on Tuesday. The game was largely confined to the midfield, with both teams finding it hard to set up clear goal-scoring chances. Aizawl FC regularly tried to break past the Sporting Goa defence, while the visiting team looked to catch the home side defence off guard through counter-attacks. World number 1 Serena Williams cruised to the second round of the Rome Masters after a convincing 6-4, 6-3 victory over Germany's Annalena Fritzen. In the men's singles, world number 4 Stan Wawrinka won a hard-fought match against Benoit Paire, winning 5-7, 6-2, 6-1. Kei Nishikori struggled past underdog Troiki in his second-round matchup, going on to win 5-7, 6-2, 6-3. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.